Welcome back to my YouTube channel. My mother didn't hesitate. You can take the guest room, she said flatly, or move out. No hug. No warning. Just eviction wrapped in fake politeness. My sister, who had suddenly arrived with her husband and 8 designer suitcases, flashed me that sugary smile she'd been perfecting since childhood. Great if you're out by the weekend, she added cheerfully, as if she were offering me a slice of cake. For a moment, I stood there frozen. I wanted to scream, to remind them that I had been helping Mom for 2 years, driving her to appointments, paying half the bills, listening when no one else called. But instead, I nodded. No tears. No begging, just quiet packing, because I've learned something in life. Not every battle is worth fighting. Some are better won by walking away silently. I always thought betrayal felt like a stab to the back. But that day, it felt more like a quiet push. While I was standing right there, fully awake. I had just come home from work, exhausted but relieved, holding a bag of groceries I'd bought for dinner. I was planning to cook for Mom like I always did. But before I could even take off my shoes, the air shifted. My mother was standing in the hallway with her arms crossed. And beside her, like royalty arriving unannounced, stood my sister and her husband, sunglasses still on indoors as if the house belonged to them. You can take the guest room, Mom said, as if she were offering me a favor. Or move out, just like that. No warning. No discussion. I stared at her, waiting for the joke, waiting for her to smirk and say, "We're just messing with you." But her face was hard as stone. My sister stepped past me, the clack of her heels echoing like a countdown. She looked me up and down, judgmental, dismissive. "Great if you're out by the weekend," she chirped, like she was reminding me to water the plants. I felt something inside me shrink and burn at the same time. Years of helping out, cooking, cleaning, paying bills when Mom's pension didn't cover everything. All of it erased in one sentence. They weren't asking. They were deciding. I could have argued. I could have reminded Mom who stayed when my sister vanished for 2 years without a single phone call. I could have reminded her who sat beside her hospital bed. I could have reminded her who loved her, not just showed up when it was convenient. But I didn't. I just nodded. Not because I agreed, but because I refused to beg for space in a house I had already earned the right to exist in. I went into my room and closed the door. For a second, I pressed my forehead against it, just breathing. Rage wanted to scream. Pain wanted to cry. But dignity whispered, not here. Not for them. So I packed, slowly, deliberately, folding clothes I had worn in moments of comfort and in moments of heartbreak. Taking down photos I once believed were memories, now revealed as illusions. Every zipper of my suitcase was a soft goodbye, not to the house, but to who I had been in it. When I walked out, neither Mom nor my sister said anything. They didn't even look at me. It was as if I was already gone in their minds. But one day later, I would learn something important. They hadn't pushed me out. They had set me free. My new apartment was barely the size of my old bedroom. The walls were thin, the carpet was older than me, and the window overlooked a parking lot lit by a single flickering street lamp. It wasn't glamorous. It wasn't home, but it was mine. That first night, I sat on the floor eating instant noodles from the pot because I hadn't unpacked a single bowl. I wasn't crying. I wasn't breaking. I was empty but not defeated. There's a strange kind of peace that settles in when you've done everything right and still get pushed out. It removes all guilt, all confusion. All that's left is clarity. I kept playing their words in my head. Take the guest room or move out. Great if you're out by the weekend. Every replay stung less and fueled more. They thought I left quietly because I was weak. But silence isn't always surrender. Sometimes it's strategy. While they celebrated reclaiming the house like it was a prize, I was building something stronger than walls. I was building resolve. I woke up early the next day, not because I had to, but because I wanted to. For once, nobody expected anything from me. No chores, no emotional labor, no forced smiles, no pretending not to be hurt. I made coffee in absolute silence and realized that for the first time in a long time, I wasn't walking on eggshells. I could breathe without permission. I started rearranging the little space, one item at a time. A thrift store lamp. A plant I bought just to prove to myself that something could thrive here. A mirror that showed me a face that was tired, yes, but still standing. and something shifted inside me. I didn't want to go back. Not even to gloat. Not even to prove a point. Let them think they'd won. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't payback, it's peace, and I was just beginning to taste it. It was 4 days after I moved out when the calls started. First, 1 from Mom, then 3 from her, then 6 from my sister. I let every single one go to voicemail. If they wanted to throw me out like trash, they could live with the silence they created. But then came a message I wasn't expecting. Not angry, not arrogant, but panicked. Call me now. It's urgent. I stared at the screen, hesitating. Part of me wanted to delete it, pretend I never saw it. But curiosity won. I answered on the 7th ring. My sister's voice came through, shaky and nothing like the smug tone she used when she kicked me out. "Tell me you talked to him," she blurted. "Talk to who?" I said flatly. "The landlord. You told him you were leaving, right?" "Right? No," I replied. "Why would I?" There was silence. Not quiet. Dead silence, like she had just swallowed the floor beneath her. Then I heard her whisper to someone in the background, probably Mom. She didn't tell him. She didn't tell him. Oh my God. Before I could even speak again, Mom snatched the phone. "Why didn't you inform Mr. Harris you were moving out?" she snapped, trying to sound authoritative but failing to hide the fear in her voice. "I didn't think I needed to report my every move," I said. "Last I checked, you made it clear my presence wasn't required." My sister came back on the line, her voice cracking. "He came today, with papers. He thought we all moved out. He already signed the lease to someone else. He wants us out in a week." "A week!" I didn't respond. I just let her words hang there. The same sister who cheerfully told me to be out by the weekend was now being told the same thing, by a stranger who didn't care about her tears, her entitlement, or her designer luggage. "Please," she finally whispered. "Please just talk to him. Tell him you didn't mean to move. That you're coming back. Something. Anything." I could almost picture her, eyeliner smeared, breathing uneven, pacing in the kitchen where I used to cook dinner they never thanked me for. Funny. The house that was too small for me was suddenly too big a loss for them. Their desperation didn't move me. Not immediately. I just held the phone to my ear and let the silence answer for me. It was astonishing. Really, how quickly authority turns into pleading when consequences knock on the right door. "Say something," my sister finally begged. "What exactly do you want me to say?" I replied calmly. "You made it very clear I wasn't part of that house anymore." "You know we didn't mean it like that," she said, her voice trembling. "Oh, I think you meant it exactly like that." I could hear Mom muttering in the background, whisper fighting with her husband, blaming each other probably. The same people who looked me in the eye and treated me like an unwanted guest were now scrambling because they were the ones about to be kicked out. A week. That's what they told me. Be out by the weekend. Now the countdown was theirs. I could have hung up. I could have told them I was busy. I could have said, "Let me think about it," and never called back. But I didn't, because this was no longer about revenge. It wasn't even about justice. It was about balance. "You want me to fix this?" I said clearly. "Yes," my sister breathed. "Then understand something," I continued. "I am not a spare key you only use when you're locked out. I'm not the backup plan. I'm not the one you push aside until I become useful again." There was a long silence on the line. For once, they weren't interrupting. They were listening. I could actually hear them realizing that I wasn't the same person who walked out quietly with a suitcase. They had pushed me out thinking I was powerless. Now, they were learning what happens when the quiet one holds the final card, and I wasn't going to play it cheaply. "Meet me tomorrow," I said. "We'll go see the landlord together." My sister exhaled in relief. "Okay, thank you. Thank you so much." But gratitude without change is just manipulation, and tomorrow they were going to learn the difference. The next morning I arrived at the house right on time. They were already waiting outside, my sister pacing nervously, my mother standing stiff with her arms crossed like she was trying to rebuild control through posture alone. But this time they didn't greet me with superiority. They didn't tell me what to do. They didn't pretend everything was fine. They stayed quiet, watching me like someone approaching a judge rather than a sibling. We walked together to the landlord's office. but I didn't walk with them. They followed behind me. That small shift, physical and symbolic, said everything. For once, I wasn't tagging along. I wasn't being tolerated. I was being trusted to lead. Mr. Harris, the landlord, was cordial but firm. He explained the situation again as if they hadn't already heard it 10 times. You left without formal notice. I assumed you were vacating permanently. I have a signed lease with the new tenants. Legally, I'm obligated to give them possession. My sister opened her mouth to plead again, but I lifted a hand slightly, and she stopped. She actually stopped. I turned to Mr. Harris. I was not the one who abandoned the lease. I was told to leave. I moved for personal reasons, but I never relinquished my tenant rights. If you need it in writing, I can provide it today. He leaned back, studying me. Calm, grounded, not desperate, composed. It mattered. So you still intend to co-occupy the space? He asked. I glanced sideways at my mother and sister. They were staring at me, unsure if I was about to save them or bury them. Yes, I said. Under my terms, not their terms. Not the old rules. A new order. Something shifted in the room. Power didn't arrive loudly. It settled, quiet and undeniable. In that moment, I realized I didn't crave their validation anymore. I didn't need their apology spoken out loud. I didn't even need them to like me. I needed them to respect me, and for the first time, they did. I could see it in their eyes, in the way they leaned forward, afraid to interrupt, in the way their voices stayed silent until I finished speaking. I had spent years giving them grace. They had mistaken it for weakness. Now they were seeing the difference. Grace is extended. Weakness is assumed. And I was done being assumed. Mr. Harris agreed to pause the transfer, but only if all parties signed a new co-occupancy agreement. One that protected my place in the house. I didn't look at my sister or my mother as I signed my name. I didn't need their approval. I wasn't doing it for them. I was doing it for myself. When we stepped outside, my sister turned to me with trembling lips. Not proud, not arrogant, not pretending. Thank you, she whispered. I know we don't deserve it. And for once, she was right. I didn't smile. I didn't say it's okay. It wasn't. But I did offer something more powerful than forgiveness. I offered boundaries. I'll help fix what needs to be fixed, I said. But I'm not stepping back into that house as the same person. If I walk in again, I walk in with respect. Or I don't walk in at all. They didn't argue. They didn't mock. They nodded. Because they finally understood I wasn't the spare room occupant. I wasn't the fallback option, was the foundation. And they had just learned what happens when a foundation walks away. Didn't get revenge that day. I got something far better. Got seen, and sometimes that's all the victory you need.